Let me tell you something you already know.
In my last video presentation, I told the audience the hardest thing to do in all sports isn't to hit a round ball with a round bat. It's to teach somebody else how to hit a round ball with a bat, and further, how to teach them how to do it in the game. Now this is why I'm telling you that it's more difficult to teach someone else how to do a particular task. You know, just because we have knowledge doesn't mean we actually have understanding. And this is why it makes it so difficult for someone else who's good at something, like a professional baseball player who's good at hitting. They don't have the understanding how to communicate that knowledge to someone else so they can do it too. To drive home this point, I want to share with you an excerpt from a video from the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day. The narrator, his name is Destin, and he explains to us that just because you have knowledge about things doesn't mean you actually understand and can explain it. And he also explains to the audience how important the idea of neuroplasticity is. And sometimes when younger people are active in what the activity is, they have more neuroplasticity than older adults.
Before I show you the video of what happened, I need to tell you the backstory. Like many 6-year-olds with a MacGyver mullet, I learned how to ride a bike when I was really young. I had learned a life skill and I was really proud of it. Everything changed though when my friend Barney called me 25 years later. Where I work, the welders are geniuses and they like to play jokes on the engineers. He had a challenge for me. He had built a special bicycle and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left. I thought this would be easy, so I hopped on the bike ready to demonstrate how quickly I could conquer this.
So the faster I go, the better. Yeah.
I couldn't do it. You can see that I'm laughing, but I'm actually really frustrated. In this moment, I had a really deep revelation. My thinking was in a rut. This bike revealed a very deep truth to me. I had the knowledge of how to operate the bike, but I did not have the understanding. Therefore, knowledge is not understanding. Look, I know what you're probably thinking. Destin's probably just an uncoordinated engineer and can't do it. But that's not the case at all. The algorithm that's associated with riding a bike in your brain is just that complicated. Think about it. Downwards force on the pedals, leaning your whole body, pulling and pushing the handlebars, gyroscopic precession in the wheels. Every single force is part of this algorithm. And if you change any one part, it affects the entire control system. I do not make definitive statements that often, but I'm telling you right now, you cannot ride this bicycle. For instance, this guy, I offered him $200 just to ride this bike 10 feet across the stage. Everybody thought he could do it.
No, you didn't understand. You didn't understand. So, this way. Okay, all right, just a second. All right, so, whenever you're ready. Wait. No, you have to keep your feet on. One more time.
Once you have a rigid way of thinking in your head, sometimes you cannot change that, even if you want to. So here's what I did. It was a personal challenge. I stayed out here in this driveway and I practiced about 5 minutes every day. My neighbors made fun of me. I had many wrecks, but after 8 months, this happened. One day I couldn't ride the bike and the next day I could. It was like I could feel some kind of pathway in my brain that was now unlocked. It was really weird though. It's like there's this trail in my brain, but if I wasn't paying close enough attention to it, my brain would easily lose that neural path and jump back onto the old road it was more familiar with. Are you going to give up?
No.
Go ahead. This is how it starts. Look at this. This is such a big deal. Get up, you got it. Did you see his brain get it? So in how many weeks have we been doing this? 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, he did something that took me 8 months to do, which demonstrates that a child has more neuroplasticity, am I even saying that right, than an adult. It's clear from this experiment that children have a much more plastic brain than adults. That's why the best time to learn a language is when you're a young child.
Okay, so here are some of the takeaways I got from this short video clip that I can apply to my teaching and my coaching or baseball and softball players. Number one, Destin showed us that just because he had knowledge of something, he understood that if he turned the bike to the left, the bike would go to the right. or if he turned the handlebars to the right, it would turn left. So even though he understood that, he couldn't still get his body to, understand it, to control it at first. It took him 8 months. Next, the idea of a plastic mind, neuroplasticity. And the younger you can show, players something, the earlier they are, and to grasp a concept, the more, pliable they will be to accept it. So let me bring it full circle to our baseball and softball communities. We are so regimented as a culture community to train our players, our hitters, to look at hitting from the viewpoint of mechanics, swing analysis, bat speed, and it goes on and on and on. While the reality is, when our players get into the game, the only thing that's really on their mind is the ball and timing themselves to the event that we call hitting. So the bottom line is, I believe that we should emphasize the ideas of timing. And the earlier we teach our players this, the better they're going to be at a young age. And going back to the ideas that knowledge isn't always understanding. You see, we can look at something from one perspective and think we have knowledge of it, like timing, okay? But do we really understand what timing is? And yes, we do. And I just want to inspire you to help your hitters, whether you're the coach or maybe you're the hitter yourself, okay, to look at your hitting through the lenses of timing. And that's what I help you with the best hitting drill ever, 3rd edition series, and the world's greatest hitting formula. Just want to remind you again, your clock is ticking. You want to be as good as you can be while you're still young. I'm Dave Kirilloff. May the Lord bless you.